Good afternoon, good afternoon. So I wanted to do somewhat of a quick stream on health, right? Uh, Recently, over the last year, but very recently, people my age and younger have been dying of heart attacks out of the blue. Doesn't have to happen, right? Something's going to get us eventually, right? But in your 40s and 50s of heart disease, um, now if you have a genetic heart issue, that's one thing. But these are lifestyle and eating induced heart issues, right? Most people don't even know about them because most people don't go to see a physician. Uh, that's one thing, Most physicians are more unhealthy than the average American, but especially cardiologists, right? Cardiologists, actually, their number one killer is heart disease, right? And these are people who study and operate on the heart multiple times a day. That's their specialty. Yet their diets are, they go on operate on someone and go have steak and bacon and cheese. Uh, don't take that from me. Take it from nuclear cardiologist Kim Williams out of Chicago. He's head of the cardiology uh, board, and he had heart issues and diabetes until he uh, looked into the diet aspect, right? You can live alcohol and cigarette free life, work out all the time, but if you're after you leave that health club, you're just shoving in milk and cookies and steak and eggs and cheese. Some people can live to 100 and do that. The majority of people, look around you in America, you know, go in the grocery store. How many people are walking their carts? How many people are riding their carts? You looked at what they have in their carts: 3 gallons of breast milk from a cow, cheese, more dead pigs and cows and chickens than you should eat ever. And they're eating it in a weekend. Next time you're in a grocery store, take a look. So, uh, very recently, over a week ago, someone I grew up with, their older brother, dropped dead of a heart attack. 54 years old. And I remember growing up, these guys, their whole family had the worst diet I've ever seen in my life, and they were all overweight. All the best athletes I've ever known, especially my contemporary, the guy my age, the most incredible athlete. You name the sport, he can do it. They were fat, obese, at an early age. I went there and they would fry and butter bologna with cheese on it. Who the hell eats fried cheese bologna? They would make a dip of crab and take a whole tube of Velveeta, put it in the microwave, stir it up, and eat that. I mean, is that disgusting? Velveeta cheese is disgusting enough, but Velveeta is fake. It doesn't even have to be refrigerated sometimes. So that was the life, and I assume he, moved and seeing pictures of him, he was still a big guy, and what did his diet do to him? He had a young family. He got married late, had a young family, and now he left them alone. I feel horrible for him. So, from what I remember, a nice guy. The whole family was great, but they just had a horrible diet. And I mean, their parents were obese, big people. Not only big this way, but tall. Look, I'm not fat shaming, but this country is 90% overweight, and Dr. Joel Furman would argue that it's even higher, and 50% are obese, right? What is obese? Well, you know who is. You can see it. So, bottom line is, what you put in is what you get out. And we've been told, and it's not our fault, we've been told, back in the 80s, we were told you go fat free, 100% fat free. And so what did they do in all these things? They took out the fat and they put in sugar and oils and, high fructose corn syrup, right? I mean, your corn, majority of corn people eat is very little. The majority of it goes to oils and animal feed, mostly animal feed, and ethanol, right? That's what alcohol is too. If you really think about it, it's only ethanol. And think of what that's doing to yourself. So at some point you have to give that up if you want to live a healthy life. Now the French and some people here, they drink a glass of wine a day and they live forever and it relaxes them. There's something to be said about that too. The relaxation you get out of it. Are you truly relaxing? Are you, sleeping well that night? Are you getting acid reflux? So, yeah, so concerning to see that. I've seen friends die of cancer. One of my good friends from when I was younger, my age, 51, 2 years ago, had heart failure. This guy had a horrible diet too. He turned me on to when I was 30, 40 years ago, steakums with cheese on it, and steakums, frozen steak, and him and his brother were just gigantic. I mean, he was thin as hell, and then all of a sudden eating like that and drinking beer every day, it just, by the time he moved, at 19, he was a big boy, and I see pictures of him and his wife all the time. She now has breast cancer at, I don't know, she's 49 or 50, having a double mastectomy at that age, and I see her on vacation drinking and eating like crap before the mastectomy. Well, what are you doing? You cannot be overweight and healthy. It doesn't work like that. Sorry if that's too much to handle, but it is the truth. This is Dr. Joe Furman, Dr. Greger. I'll go over these doctors. And that's not coming from me. But do you ever feel well when you're overweight? I mean, I've been like this, not for a long time, but I used to be up and down, eating like crap, then eating great, eating like crap. When I ate like crap, I felt horrible. When I was overweight, I felt horrible. I had my fat jeans and I had my skinny jeans. Right? I had 31s, and I had, back in the day, 36s. I'm like 5'6", shrinking every day. So, never again. I mean, it's been forever for me, and I'll never do that. I've learned, as soon as I went whole food, plant-based vegan, my cholesterol dropped from high 200s to 136 at 51. 136 total cholesterol. And you can't live and die by cholesterol numbers. I'm just telling you, that's a huge drop. And my triglycerides, you name it, blood pressure, it's all in ideal, better than most 20-some-year-olds, right? And atherosclerosis starts, they've done autopsies on children in automobile accidents, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, and they've seen the early signs of atherosclerosis. That's heart disease, plaque in their arteries at that age. So I'm not saying it'll give you a heart attack at 18, 19, but it is the start of it. What you do now affects you later. If you're older, what you do now affects you now, right? But when you're young, I wish I knew. I ate like crap. It was pizza every day, and cheese 3 times a day, and ranch dressing, and you name it, like we all do. I was never a soda guy, never a soda pop guy. So, at some point, you have to take accountability, we all do, for what we're putting in if we want to try. It's not about when you die, it's about how you die. It's about how you feel the last 10, 15, 20 years of your life. And you don't really think about that when you're young, but luckily some of my kids do, because they want to be able to live healthy. It's about enjoying your life when you get older. You don't want to be miserable and sedentary and have some chronic disease get you and slowly wear away at you. So, go over a couple of things. Some doctors, first of all. Dr. Greger, I've mentioned before, nutritionfacts.org. Look him up. He goes over the facts of it. Dr. Dean Ornish saved his grandmother from heart disease. She was given a death sentence, and he turned her around. She went completely whole food, plant-based in the 80s, and lived until she was like 94 or 96. All for what she ate. Turned her life around. It is about what you eat and how you live as well. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, as I've mentioned, from the Cleveland Clinic. He has, I had my friend I told him to get the book, and he got really thin, and then you can tell he gave up, and he's eating all crap, and he's probably put on 50, 60 pounds, and I think he has a pacemaker in it. 51 or 50. This guy has you eat greens all day long because it produces nitrous that you need. He is, if you have heart disease, Dr. Caldwell is the way to go. You know, look him up. His diet, he goes over, it's very strict, very, very, very strict. These are people who, you know, it's not for your average person. It's someone who has heart disease and can barely walk. They have angina. They can barely walk 20 feet without being out of breath, or they are diagnosed to have, you know, a cardiac procedure, you know, triple bypass, whatever it may be. He has gotten people out of having to do it. Right? They've canceled their operation due to him. He's a surgeon. Colin Campbell, China study. He came up with the word plant-based. I don't agree with the word plant-based. Don't like it. That means, you know, you could have plants and then fish and chicken with it, right? If it's a base, that's not what he means by it, but it's, you know, misinterpreted a lot. Dr. Michael Clapper, one of my favorites. He's been around forever. He was a surgeon, and he was doing a residency, I believe, in Chicago, watching people, you know, it says come in for gunshot wounds all the time, and on the south side of Chicago. And one day he's looking at these arteries, and he sees all this yellow stuff in it. He's like, well, what is that? And the surgeon turns to him and he's like, that's the bacon he's been eating. This is not a vegan. At the time, none of them were. And the surgeon said, this is the fat. This is what he, you know, the ribs, you know, he ate. And didn't get him immediately, but he was at dinner with a friend eating a steak, pontificating about how he wanted to do more kinder, you know, he wanted to be a kind person and, you know, live life in a peaceful way and help as many people he can, as, you know, being a doctor. And his friend said, you know, very nice everything you're saying, but you might want to start with that steak you're eating right here, because that steak, you're responsible with that steak for the cow you killed, and the next one in line, and that, boom, hit him like a ton of bricks. And he has done the research. He has the evidence as he sees it, and he has seen it since the early 80s, you know, and he's in his mid to later 70s now and going strong. He's been a vegan, a healthy vegan, for that long. Dr. Joe Furman, just look at him. He has his own nutritarian diet and some books out there, very strict, but boy, he does it. He knows what he's doing. He definitely preaches leafy greens, berries, nuts, seeds, no oils. All these guys are pretty much no oils except for flax oil, and that's one doctor that talks about that. Dr. Dr. B here, he is a gut doctor. He was not a vegan. He felt like hell. His wife was, or girlfriend at the time, and he just was running crazy all over the place, you know, being a newer doctor, and 50 pounds overweight, he said, and then he learned about, you know, the proper way of eating, and he's been preaching it ever since. And he really recommend you look at his Fiber Fuel book. He's an expert on the microbiome. That is where he specializes in microbiome, you know, diversity of plants, and you know, kimchi, sauerkraut, right? You have to be careful. That's just a condiment. You make kimchi and sauerkraut, it's high in sodium, so it's a condiment, but though it's microbes that have formed on there, feed your bacteria, the good bacteria. There he is. Garth Davis, he's a bariatric surgeon. Seems to know his stuff, but I'm not going to preach on him. Joe Kahn, he's another cardiologist. Great stuff. He worked with Kim Williams, who's a cardiologist who I mentioned. Martin Mills, talked about him before. Here he is. If you look him up on YouTube, if you have any thoughts on questions about the Bible, what the Bible says about being vegan, we have questions on we are true carnivores and we need to be eating meat, look him up. He'll go over all that. You know, the truth of, you know, how often could we really eat meat even, you know, 10,000 years ago? The women would be foraging, and the men would be out hunting, you know, for days and days, rarely get a kill. The calories that they're expending looking for a kill and trying to hunt it versus what they could have done just eating fruits and vegetables that were available at the time. And then they would kill an animal, and how far could they, you know, they couldn't take a raw butchered animal back to camp for 3 days, if they traveled 3 days, it would rot and it would kill you, right? It would become rancid and horrific. So he goes over all that stuff. Look him up. You know, and they've proven that drinking milk for nutrients is like inhaling smoke for oxygen, right? It makes no sense. You know, why are you breastfeeding at your age? Skipping over a couple of these. Dr. Brooke Goldner, if you have an autoimmune disease, look her up. Dr. Brooke Goldner. She had lupus at 16 and was given a death sentence and cured it. I won't go over her whole story, but it's a very, very, very strict diet, but she has cured up so many diseases. She helped with my autoimmune disease, but you know, she's also helping with a friend of mine right now who has multiple sclerosis, and she's made an incredible turn. You know, she's only been doing it about 6 weeks. It's very hardcore. It's a lot of greens, but if you have an autoimmune disease, look her up. You know, arthritis. You know, not osteo, but you know, rheumatoid, any type of autoimmune or Hashimoto's or something like that you're really struggling, psoriasis, eczema. You know, if it has an itis at it, look her up. She will help you. If you're trying to lose weight, look her up, right? It's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. What she does is very difficult. It's mostly raw. You have to be very dedicated, you know, so just wanted to go over a few doctors there. You know, the moral of the story is if it was made in a plant, if it was made by a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant, don't eat it, right? Dr. Clapper said, a wise professor told me in medical school, people do not get chronic disease, they earn it. That is the truth. You are earning this. Not everybody, but our lifestyle all over the world, but mostly here in America, we earn this by eating processed food constantly, and I eat processed food, right? And I feel like crap after it. You know, that goes Triscuits, wheat thins, crackers in general, anything that's not alive, anything in a box in your pantry, is bad, unless it's like tahini or beans or some sort like that, something that's been minimally processed. You know, even tofu has been processed, right? But it's still fairly healthy. It's not anything that's not in its whole food form is processed, right? But how far down the chain do you go? That makes it, you know, harder on your gut and on your health. And I always like to say I don't feel superior because I'm vegan. I'm vegan because I don't feel superior to any other being. Right? People think that vegans are high and mighty and think we're better than everyone. No, we're a minority. We're a very small minority, 1% of the world. Right? Just trying, you know, I don't understand why being compassionate, and I'm not a hippie. I'm not a peace loving, you know, I love the innocent, but I rejoice in evil getting theirs, right? Someone is evil. I'm not, you know, a pacifist at all. Far from it. I did study Buddhism a long time ago and met the Dalai Lama and all that stuff, but that's not how the world works. And evil is evil, and they need to either be locked away or get off this planet. You know, I always hear, you know, we're carnivores, right? I want to read to you. Some carnivores are called obligate carnivores. They depend on the meat for survival. Their bodies cannot digest plants properly. Right? Plants do not provide enough nutrients for obligate carnivores. This is true. You know, all cats, from small house cats to huge tigers, are obligate carnivores. Most carnivores are not obligate carnivores, meaning your dog isn't. Your dog is not an obligate carnivore. A lion is. An alligator is. Right? We are not. Look at our teeth. Yeah, we have canines. That's for fruit and veggies. You know, look at the chart of true canine teeth, right? Can we run fast? No. Could we actually take our tools out of it? Could we actually catch a zebra on the Sahara? I mean, could we catch an animal with our 2 feet? Of course not. We could run about 100 yards, and that'd be a joke. They'd be a mile away. So, yeah, so we do catch it. What are we going to do when we catch it with our hands? Are we going to tear it apart? and eat it raw, that's an obligate carnivore. We are not that. We couldn't do that. We don't have the acid in our stomach. We have very mild acid. It doesn't feel that way if it comes out, right, to us, but the truth of the matter is we have very mild acid, and we couldn't handle that. Lion's acid can take care of that, and they also have such a small intestinal tract that it poops it out, excavates it pretty quickly within a couple hours. Ours is different. We have a very long intestinal tract that is there to absorb the minerals, vitamins from the food we're eating, right? And also scrape everything down and push it out. You have meat, dairy, and eggs, you are sitting there rotting, putrefying, causing disease, and especially if you get leaky gut, which are basically you have these junctions in your stomach, and when you have leaky gut, they go away, and you actually get food into your bloodstream. That is not a good thing. That's how these autoimmune diseases happen. Some of them come from a serious reaction. Mine happened when I was 6 years old. My mom put something in my hair at the time to make it blonder, and I broke out horribly. I had a horrible allergic reaction to it, and it caused an autoimmune disease. But because my diet is pretty non-existent, if I drink alcohol and I eat like crap, boy, different story. So think about it. You're not carnivores, milk. I mean, really think about milk. In the U.S., the FDA allows 750 million pus cells in every liter. It's 33 ounces of milk. In Europe, regulators allow 400 million pus cells. In Australia, there's no limit on how much pus. It's called somatic stem cells. Okay? When these cows are when they're milked constantly from these machines, they get mastitis. Mastitis is an infection of the breast. Women can get it if they're nursing. They either get antibiotics, the female cows, or they don't if they're organic, and through this, they get these horrible infections. They bleed, so you're getting blood and pus and fecal matter in it because they crap everywhere, and so it gets into the milk. But so they suck the pus out, and it goes into your milk. They don't remove. There's no removal process. It's just a heating process, a pasteurization process. So you're getting heated pus, you're getting heated fecal matter, you're getting heated, blood and whatever else. And then you get vitamin. You get iron, and you get vitamin D because it's injected into there. But it's iodine. That's what I'm thinking of. You get iodine because they spray it with iodine. The udders and what they're milking you with, the cows with, they spray that. That's how you get iodine in there. So it's pretty disgusting. Don't take my word for it. You can look at the videos and you can just look it up for yourself. And what you have to be careful about with any type of animal product or a ton of protein, especially dairy products, is IGF-1. That's insulin-like growth factor. That plays an important role in tissue growth and development background. Think about it. You're drinking from another species. That is another species. It's 1,500 pounds or 1,000 pounds. Doesn't make sense. When you're done with your mom's milk, you're done. I won't go over all this stuff, but you have to be careful because you think about the potent link dairy seems to exist for 3 hormones responsive glands: acne, breast cancer, and prostate cancer have all been linked to dairy intake. 28 studies of over 28,000 people show animal protein milk boosts the levels of cancer-promoting hormone IGF-1 in people who have had breast and cancer and or if it runs in your family, or if it prostate cancer. Get rid of dairy. If you're going to get rid of anything, get rid of dairy. Calcium from milk and dairy is only 30% bioavailable, meaning what you can absorb, while dark leafy greens, tofu, almonds, tahini, sesame seeds are 60% bioavailable to the human body, except for spinach, and switch to high oxalates, you're not going to absorb much of the calcium, maybe 3 or 4, 5%. So that's not where you're going to get your calcium. You get nutrients, but you're not going to get calcium from that. Those should not. But if you have like kale or other greens, cabbages, and everything, red cabbage, which is great for you, and spinach or high oxalates together, it won't inhibit the other absorption of the other. It's not like it binds to that. So you can eat those together. Each person in the country consumes an average of 375 pounds of dairy products each year. Just think of that, 375 pounds. Now, people are always scared of osteoporosis, right? Well, milk is the worst thing, dairy is the worst thing you could have for that. You need your osteoblasts and your osteoclasts. And osteoblast builds the bone, whereas the osteoclast eats up the bone so it can be ready to be reshaped into a stronger and resistant load-bearing structure. Also things you need to think about: subsidies, right? Why is it so cheap? $10 billion per year. And also think of school lunch programs reimbursed every year that serves milk with it. 39% of each meal that is served in school milk is dumped. It's just wasted. In other words, 39% is thrown in the trash at the taxpayer's expense. The school lunch program equals $10 billion of subsidy. So 39% is 40% of $10 billion is thrown in the garbage. According to Feed America, which is not a vegan group, 108 billion pounds of food is wasted in America every year. 40% of all food is wasted of what we eat. 130 billion meals equals to $408 billion in food waste that we could feed the rest of the earth with what we waste here in America alone. Cheese. God forbid you if you still eat cheese, I'm telling you. You get used to not having it. It takes 900 pounds of water to create 1 pound of cheese. Look at the cheese making method. And where do you think whey protein came from? It's just a waste product of cheese. It's just a waste. No pun intended. Waste of whey. And they made it into a powder. For muscleheads to think that they're going to get big from it, right? It is high in protein. It's disgusting. It's a waste product. You're eating a waste product in a powder form. Some cheeses use vegetable rennet, but not required to list it. The traditional source of animal rennet is the stomach lining of calves, right? So they slaughter these little baby male calves, and then they take rennet, an enzyme, in their stomach. It's a natural occurring enzyme that helps digestion and milk absorption in the calf. It's extracted from the stomach lining of a slaughtered calf by washing and drying the lining. It's softened in a solution of brine, boric acid, and that's going, a lot of times in hard cheeses like Parmesan, Pendana, Romano, Manchego, soft cheeses don't use rennet. The average American consumes 37 pounds, 67,000 calories of cheese per year. 67,000. We wonder why we have issues. The Basic Food Scheme was invented by the United States Department of Agriculture in 1956 to promote the sales of dairy, meat, and eggs. Think about it. And also, breakfast was invented by some marketing guy from Kellogg's that Kellogg's hired back in the day. Breakfast, break fast, bullshit. You eat when you're hungry. I don't eat until 1. Eat when you're hungry. Right? It's ridiculous. Why do you want cheese? Why is, I've mentioned this before. It's because it's addictive, right? Because dairy products inside can act as a mild opiate. Fragrance of the cheese protein called casomorphine attached to the same brain receptors as heroin and other narcotics. As a result, each bite of cheese produces a tiny hit of dopamine. This is meant to keep the calves coming back for more milk when nursing, right? I've mentioned if you're nursing a baby and they look at you, well, they're not necessarily high, but they're euphoric. They're, some things that you might not think about, when cooking meat or, our HCAs, heterocyclic amines, they're carcinogenic, mutagenic chemicals done from, they're created like from cooking meats, beef, fowl, and fish. It can even happen with vegetables, but when you're smoking these meats and you get all that burnt crust on them, people think it tastes great and it's incredible. There you go. And they're extremely carcinogenic. There's other things you can barbecue, right? You can make skewers. Good old endotoxins, right? Dr. Clapper talks about this a lot. Those are, you know, remember all those cases of Chipotle having food poisoning and salmonella and all these salmonella things with romaine lettuce? Well, it's not because broccoli shits. You know, romaine lettuce doesn't shit. Cauliflower doesn't shit. Beans don't shit. What shits are the animals confined next door, and they're spraying their crap everywhere. The farmers spray, or the slave owners spray the crap all over the fields, and it goes into neighboring neighborhoods in a mist, or it leaks out into these ponds and goes all over the vegetable gardens. They think it's a fertilizer, which it's not. It has salmonella, it has typhoid, it has E. coli, all this stuff, right? And all this stuff is when you slaughter an animal and they're killed, their guts leak everywhere. I've been in these slaughterhouses, it just goes everywhere. Crap falls out of them, vomit, stomach acids. Like I said, the crap is all over the place, all over the people, while they're slaughtering these poor beings. And what happens, they're killed, and within the cell membranes, the carcass, and then they're packaged with the toxins, sent to the grocery store, placed in a meat case under an ultraviolet heat lamp, which can kill some bacteria, but breaks down the cell wall and releases the endotoxins. Heat will not kill these endotoxins. People eat these, they can cause disease, gut permeability, that's leaky gut, when your gut is permeable, inflammation, and etc. They are heat stable, not killing it with the heat, sorry. AGEs, that has to do with proteins as well. They're in all sorts of stuff. Meat and cow's milk have twice the amount of estrogen than soy. Estrogen found in soy is plant-based phytoestrogen. It does no harm. Does no harm. Period. I mean, who do you think did those studies? Who do you think did that? It was the dairy industry. My wife was involved with it. Those who, I think, I'd say look up vegan quotes if you're religious and you're a Christian and God says you can slaughter animals. Well, if you believe in this, it did not begin that way. The world was the garden of vegan. It was vegan until there was sin, right? And so here's some that you can look up if you're into this, right? Genesis 1:30, right? That's the first one I knew of. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and everything that creeps on earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food, and it was so, right? Look at these. A righteous man regards the life of his animal, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. Better is dinner of herbs, where love is, than a fattened ox and a hatred with it, right? Goes on and on and on and on. I recommend reading that if this is good for you, right? So many more, right? And this is a non-vegan. Christopher Hitchens, one of the greatest minds that ever lived, died of esophageal cancer due to smoking like crazy, being overweight, and drinking like a madman. Even when he had esophageal cancer, was drinking scotch and whiskey. What a waste. He was the best, What can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. And he used to be a pro-animal guy, knew he was doing wrong, but what can you do? You know when you know, and you're willing to give it up when you give it up. So, carnivore diet, right? You ever see this idiot? And this guy in the Liver King, but Paul Sardino. What a moron this guy is. Looks great. Can't deny that. Look at him. All his videos about plants being bad and causing harm. Please don't listen to him. I know carnivores working for Jordan Peterson, so-called, and his autoimmune disease. Who knows what he actually has? I think it's an excuse just to eat steak 3 times a day. I mean, no animal eats animal flesh 3-4 times a day. Like, Americans do. Now the Chinese do. And they're all getting diabetes and overweight. Type 2 diabetes is 100% curable, 95% curable, right? There's always a 5% that, but this guy, it's just unreal to me. The crap he spews about eating organs. You really think we're supposed to eat organs? Raw, like the Liver King, that moron? I mean, so this guy's very dangerous. There's many out there that are like that. Just look them up. So I would, if it sounds too good to be true, I've done it. Back in the day, I did it. It was brutal for me, right? I know Joe Rogan has done, of course. He gets massive diarrhea, but you'll lose weight, 100%. You will definitely lose the weight. You'll get it right back because you can't live like that. You're not designed to. Your stomach can't handle it. So, what are you supposed to eat? Vegetables. Cooked. Not cooked. More raw than you can, right? And there's a million out there, and it's cheap. Don't let anyone tell you that it's not. Beans, brown rice, quinoa, couscous, farro. There's so many grains. I mean, my wife can cook anything vegan. It's unreal. Here's some junk food. That's vegan. It's a chocolate bar. Me doing my own sprouts. I make sprouts. This is broccoli sprouts. About 100 times higher in sulforaphane, cancer-fighting properties than broccoli does, right? And it's a broccoli sprout. You can do it for about a penny a day. You can't tell me about cheapness and how expensive and how righteous it is to be vegan. It's just not true. It's more economical, right? I mean, if it wasn't subsidized, if meat wasn't subsidized, it'd be unaffordable. Completely unaffordable. You'd be paying $50 for a Big Mac, right? You can buy a pound of Impossible if you want to eat unhealthy, but you still want junk food, and I do it. Rarely. Get that for anywhere from $5 to $7. They have a less and less fat one, and it tastes incredible. If you want a burger, you can do that. Go to Five Guys or Culver's or McDonald's or Portillo's or some crap like that. It's animal flesh. You can't get cholesterol from anything but animals. That's the bottom line. Feel free to message me. I've ranted enough. I think that you have to at some point take responsibility if you want to live healthy. I mean, I know people who are like on death's door and they don't care. They're not giving up their cigarettes. They're not giving up their Pepsid and Tums, and they're not giving up their steak. They'd rather die happy. Is it really happy? Dying with heart disease, dying with diabetes, living and dying with diabetes, or with cancer. I'm not saying I can't get it, cancer. I'm not saying you can live a perfectly healthy life as you see it, not die young, but you feel better. Why not, live in line maybe with your morals? Are you against animal abuse? If you're against animal abuse, you can't eat them. Can't wear them. Can't use them for experiments. It can't be a tool to exploit. Look up those doctors. They'll lead you down the path of health, 100%. Message me. I'm happy to discuss it with you. I'm not going to go over every little detail. I'll keep videos coming on special topics, but I just wanted to go over general stuff. Where to get information. After seeing all these people that I know die of cancer and die of heart disease over the last couple of years, and people dying of, initially of COVID, that young people that I knew forever. But, what they didn't tell you about the virus was the majority of people who died were unhealthy, overweight, had underlying conditions, and it didn't have to be done. Didn't have to be done. There should have been a wake-up call for everyone to, it helped with, people going vegan initially, but then it dropped off because people want to eat the way they want to eat. And if you're vegan and you're feeling weird and you want to pull a Miley Cyrus or whatever it is and you think you need to eat fish, you're not doing it right. You're starving yourself. You know, if you starve yourself, vegan or not, you're gonna die. You gotta have enough nutrients. You know, you gotta have flax. You gotta get your vitamin D. You know, if you live in cold environments, if you're not in the sun, you shouldn't be in the sun like this Paul Sorvino, leather skin guy anyways all the time, surfing, you know. He's a fool. He's a complete moronic fool. You know, the spew he does. Vitamin D, vitamin B12. Get your nutrients. You're only going to get your phytonutrients through greens. That's what we're meant to eat. Don't filter your nutrients through a corpse's body, a dead animal's body. Eat them yourself. You're not a baby cow to be breastfeeding when you're a grown-ass man or a woman. You're not a baby cow. We can all be vegan.